has to tell me, why is this guy always in the doghouse with the online hall monitors of righteousness? It is a phenomenon that truly fascinates me, that every couple of years, Matt Damon, one of the most likable guys in Hollywood with impeccable liberal credentials, is again flailing around in cancel culture quicksand. There are too many people in this country who are motivated not by what they really believe, but by what will get Twitter to react to them with likes and retweets. That's called bad faith. It's why every couple of years I'm reading headlines like USA Today, I wish I could cancel Matt Damon. Washington Post, Matt Damon has more Damon-splaining to do. Daily Beast, shut up, Matt Damon. Vox, Matt Damon isn't a terrible person, he's just ignorant.
Matt Damon has somehow become a magnet for cancel culture outrage. One wrong move, one poorly phrased sentence, and suddenly he's public enemy number one. Here's the irony though. Damon isn't some conservative outsider. He's openly progressive and has consistently supported left-leaning causes. But none of that matters. Once the outrage mob picks a target, loyalty buys you nothing. That's where Bill Maher steps in. Known for slicing through woke hypocrisy, Maher doesn't just defend Damon, he dismantles the entire attack piece by piece. And trust me, this is one of those moments you'll want to stick around for. If this already sounds familiar, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Because by the end of this, you'll definitely have an opinion.
It's not always meant as a slur, but it's wrong, yes, of course. And Damon owned up, saying that while coming of age in Boston in the 70s and 80s, that word was thrown around without any thought put into it. And now he's put some thought into it. And he's going to stop using it. One might say he became woke. Okay, he was late to the party, to which we could say, welcome, glad you could make it. Or we could say, you came later than I did.
Maher starts by laying out the facts with brutal clarity. Matt Damon, without being pressured, cancelled, or publicly shamed, made a personal choice to stop using a word that had long been used to mock gay people. No PR campaign. No apology tour. Just a quiet decision made behind closed doors. You'd assume that kind of self-awareness would earn at least a nod of approval, right? Not even close. Somehow, the outrage crowd still found a way to be offended. Damon's attempt to be more thoughtful wasn't celebrated. It was treated like a failure. Maher zooms in on how ridiculous that reaction is, showing how even genuine effort is punished if it doesn't perfectly align with the approved narrative. The takeaway is shocking but clear. Intentions don't matter, growth doesn't count, and self-correction is never enough. The response was so over the top that it perfectly exposes the madness of the outrage machine.
Many people in this country who are motivated not by what they really believe, but by what will get Twitter to react to them with likes and retweets. That's called bad faith. It's why every couple of years I'm reading headlines like USA Today, I wish I could cancel Matt Damon. Washington Post, Matt Damon has more Damon-splaining to do. Daily Beast, shut up, Matt Damon. Vox, Matt Damon isn't a terrible person, he's just ignorant. Really? That bad, is he? We're talking about Matt Damon? I don't know, he's got a clean water charity and delivers food to Haiti. What have you done, Vox headline writer?
Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many of the people pushing these outrage headlines don't even believe their own narratives. Their loyalty isn't to honesty, balance, or facts. It's to clicks, shares, and engagement metrics. Rage drives traffic. Calm reasoning doesn't. Anything that sparks anger, division, or tribal loyalty is gold in today's media economy. That's why you almost never hear about the positive things Matt Damon has done, whether in Hollywood or across the globe. Good deeds don't trend. Quiet generosity doesn't explode on social media. Media outlets know that tearing someone down brings far more engagement than praising them ever could. So harmless moments get blown up into controversies, and manufactured scandals are fed into the outrage cycle. In this system, decency isn't news, but being labeled problematic absolutely is.
Always getting pulled over by the woke police for something. He's got a woke rap sheet as long as your arm. On the reboot of the Project Greenlight series, he was booked on obstruction of social justice for maintaining that a director should be chosen on merit first. But merit first is not synonymous with racism. Thinking that it is, that's kind of racist.
This next controversy shouldn't have existed at all. Choosing directors, actors, and crew based on talent and experience isn't some radical idea. It's how filmmaking has always worked. Great movies come from skill, vision, and chemistry, not ideological checklists. Damon didn't lecture anyone or deliver some grand manifesto. He simply stated the obvious: the best person for the job should get the job. That's it. But common sense doesn't survive long in outrage culture. The moment those words left his mouth, they were twisted into something ugly. What was meant as a practical industry standard suddenly became a moral offense. In today's climate, even prioritizing quality over politics can get you labeled as cancelable.
Damon did hard time in Twitter jail on 2 counts of accessory to homophobia for saying that actors do well when they keep their private lives private so that audiences can watch the character on the screen without thinking about the caricature from the tabloids, and that includes your sexuality. Which is true. One of the reasons I love Daniel Day-Lewis is I'm not sure he even exists off-screen. But in Wokeville, somehow that became gay actors should go back in the closet, which is not what he said. But the verdict was in, and he was sentenced to appear on Ellen.
I've said this countless times before. Actors are better off keeping their private lives private. Once that curtain gets pulled back, problems usually follow. When reality clashes with the image people have built in their heads, perceptions change instantly. Expectations collapse, and suddenly the work is viewed through a completely different filter. That's human nature. Matt Damon was making that exact point. He wasn't advocating exclusion or intolerance, he was arguing for boundaries. A clear separation between the art and the artist. But as usual, the outrage crowd rushed in and twisted his words beyond recognition. A reasonable point about privacy was reframed as something ugly and malicious. His message had nothing to do with bigotry, but nuance doesn't survive in a culture that thrives on outrage.
How unhomophobic Matt Damon is? He f***ed Liberace. 2016, the movie The Great Wall opened, and Damon was brought up on charges of whitewashing in the 3rd degree. Whitewashing being when filmmakers cast white actors for parts meant for people of color, which is exactly what he was not doing. His role was never meant for a Chinese actor. In fact, it was a Chinese-made movie targeted primarily to the Chinese audience that was purposefully using his white ass so the movie would have crossover appeal here. Nevertheless, when I heard about this, I immediately replaced Matt's poster over my bed with Chris Evans.
At this point, it honestly feels like the woke crowd has a standing grudge against Matt Damon. No matter what he does, it's wrong. Speak up, and he's offensive. Stay quiet, and he's complicit. Bill Maher highlighted this perfectly when revisiting the backlash over the Great Wall. The film was a Chinese production, funded by Chinese studios, rooted in Chinese mythology, and made primarily for a Chinese audience. Casting Damon wasn't some secret plot to erase culture. It was a business decision. The producers wanted a recognizable American star to help the movie reach international audiences. That's how global cinema has always worked. Maher's point was devastatingly simple. Collaboration isn't erasure. But once again, routine industry practice was twisted into a moral scandal because outrage thrives on ignoring context.
17, in the early days of the Me Too movement, Damon was locked up in Alcatraz on a charge of aggravated mansplaining during a reckoning and was sentenced to not less than 1 year of having to shut the f*** up. See, what happened was, during an interview where Damon called the Me Too movement wonderful and a watershed moment, he added that sexual misconduct involved a spectrum of behavior and that there was a difference between patting someone on the butt and rape. True. undeniable, and unforgivable. Even though the legal system has always differentiated degrees for crimes, even murder. Oh, Matt, always getting in trouble for saying perfectly.
I don't fault Matt Damon at all. The outrage machine doesn't care whether you're an ally or an enemy. Once it locks onto you, it attacks relentlessly. What Damon said was calm, rational, and grounded in reality. But reason has never satisfied the mob. They weren't interested in discussion. They wanted full compliance. They wanted him to loudly condemn every Me Too accusation with zero nuance or hesitation. Anything less was treated as betrayal. Maher nails this perfectly. In the mob's world, restraint equals guilt, and balance equals complicity. Damon's refusal to turn complex situations into performative outrage made him a target. He wasn't punished for what he said, he was punished for not shouting loudly enough.
Done it again by breaking Liam's law. Yes, that's the law that refers to the time a few years back when actor Liam Neeson recounted a story of personal growth involving racist thoughts he had as a young man, but then realizing the error of his ways, expunging the racist element from his anger. But of course, in so doing, he committed the cardinal sin of admitting he was not born perfect and did not emerge from the womb completely enlightened like Buddha. And now Matt's done it with his gay slur admission, committed the crime of not always being the person you would become.
This is the real tragedy of outrage culture. It demands perfection from birth. There's no room for mistakes, growth, or learning. No allowance for context. No credit for improvement. One bad comment, one outdated belief, and you're permanently branded. But let's be honest, who actually meets that standard? Everyone has said or done things they regret, including the loudest critics themselves. The difference is that most people evolve. They reflect, learn, and try to do better. That should matter. But outrage culture doesn't believe in redemption. It freezes people at their worst moment and defines them by it forever. Instead of encouraging accountability, it creates fear, silence, and hypocrisy.
Bad faith arguments, and it's all we do now on both sides of our divide. 2 weeks ago, Nancy Pelosi called Republican House Leader Kevin McCarthy a moron. Oh, that's not the bad faith part of the story, that's the true part. But a few days later, McCarthy was speaking to a group of Republicans and said, jokingly, but he is Kevin McCarthy, he said that if Republicans took the House in 2022, quote, I want you to watch Nancy Pelosi hand me that gavel. It will be hard not to hit her with it. Pelosi's office called it a threat of violence. Hakeem Jeffries said violence against women is no laughing matter. And Eric Swalwell said McCarthy was a would-be assailant who must resign. Shut up.
Everyone knew Kevin McCarthy was joking when he made the gavel comment about Nancy Pelosi. It was obvious political exaggeration, the kind that's been used for decades without controversy. But that didn't stop the outrage machine from kicking into overdrive. Democrats seized the moment and reframed it as violence against women. Social media erupted. Press conferences followed. Boycotts were threatened, all over a remark no rational person took literally. This wasn't about safety or morality. It was about spectacle. Manufactured outrage designed to dominate headlines and score political points. Maher's critique fits perfectly here. When everything is labeled violent or offensive, the words lose meaning, and real issues get buried under performative hysteria.
This is what bad faith is. You don't really think it was a threat of violence, or that anyone thinks such violence would be a laughing matter, or that Kevin McCarthy is a would-be assailant, any more than anyone thinks Matt Damon's a homophobe. And Matt, my advice to you, stop hunting for goodwill. You're not going to find much in this country.
And that brings us to the bigger picture. Outrage has completely replaced reason. Whether it's Matt Damon, Kevin McCarthy, or anyone else, intent no longer matters and context is irrelevant. The outrage crowd isn't chasing fairness or progress, they're chasing punishment. Bill Maher cuts straight through the noise. When perfection is demanded and growth is dismissed, everyone eventually becomes a target. Jokes turn into crimes. Nuance becomes unacceptable. Common sense becomes offensive. This culture doesn't build, it destroys. And until that changes, the outrage machine will keep devouring everyone in its path, ally or enemy alike. That's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you in the next one.